In the late 60s and early 70s, mid-engine sports cars were rare gems reserved for the elite. Options like the Ferrari Dino and Lamborghini Miura dazzled with Italian elegance, but came with sky-high price tags and endless maintenance woes. Then came the Tomaso Pantera, a car with the sleekness of Italian design but the raw power of an American V8 engine, and a price that made it almost shockingly accessible. Alejandro Di Tomaso, an ex-Formula One driver, had a daring vision to create a machine that could rival Ferrari's best without the hefty costs. But could this fierce blend of Italian style and American muscle truly shake Ferrari's reign? Let's dive into Alejandro Di Tomaso's fascinating journey, where racing dreams and car-making ambitions merged to create a truly legendary vehicle, the Di Tomaso Pantera. Now, if you were to imagine Alejandro's life, you'd see a guy who started out with a thrill for speed and a love for competition. Originally from Argentina, Alejandro moved to Italy with a big goal: to build cars that can handle both the racetrack and the open road. In 1959, he founded Di Tomaso Automobile in Modena, Italy, a place known for churning out some of the world's most iconic sport cars. This wasn't your typical car company. Di Tomaso had racing in his blood, and it showed. At first, he worked on high-performance prototypes and even dabbled in Formula One, creating cars for Frank Williams' team in 1970. But Alejandro wanted more. He envisioned producing cars that anyone passionate about speed and style could own, without the astronomical price tag that usually came with European sports cars. His early work included models like the Vallelunga, a lightweight, nimble car designed in 1963. It featured a small but potent engine that made it surprisingly quick. The Vallelunga might have only seen a limited run of around 50 cars, but it laid down the foundation for Alejandro's next project, the Mangusta. In 1966, the Mangusta hit the scene. This car was striking, a mid-engine sports car with a Ford V8 tucked into the back. It was edgy and bold, with a steel backbone chassis that became something of a signature for Di Tomaso. The Mangusta proved Alejandro's ability to create fast, thrilling sports cars that stood out from the crowd, but it wasn't without its flaws. The handling was tricky and the car was prone to overheating. Yet, Alejandro learned a lot from the Mangusta's design, performance, and public reception. With all of these lessons in hand, he aimed higher. He dreamed of a car that would go head-to-head with the best out there. Yes, even Ferrari. And this dream would soon take shape in the form of the Tomaso Pantera. Now, here's where Ford entered the picture. Ford wanted to break into the sports car market, but they needed something different. Something with a touch of Italian flair, yet rugged enough to handle the American roads. The partnership between Di Tomaso and Ford was a natural fit. Ford saw potential in Di Tomaso's vision of an affordable yet powerful sports car, and they had the resources to make it happen. With Ford on board, Alejandro gained access to their powerhouse V8 engines and the stability to distribute cars on a much larger scale. Ford's involvement also meant the Pantera could also be sold through Lincoln Mercury dealerships across America, making it far more accessible than other Italian supercars. Using Ford's 351 Cleveland V8 engine was a game changer. This engine was known for its durability, hefty torque, and strong power output. Unlike many high-maintenance European engines, this V8 was easy to service and it didn't require exotic parts. Alejandro now had the perfect setup, an exotic Italian car with an American heart. Not only was it powerful, but it was also practical, at least as practical as a sports car could be. This partnership made the Pantera stand out in a market full of complicated European engines. It was fast, reliable, and significantly cheaper than the Ferraris and Lamborghinis of its time. With Ford backing the production and distribution of the Pantera, Di Tomaso could bring his car to the masses. He didn't have to rely on small, expensive batches. He could now scale up, producing the Pantera in larger numbers than his previous models. Ford's resources meant better production quality, which helped solve some of the issues the Mangusta had. Now, with Ford handling the US distribution and Alejandro overseeing the European side, the Pantera was positioned to make a serious impact worldwide. The Pantera officially debuted in 1970, and it was unlike anything people had seen. The styling by American designer Tom Tjada at Ghia gave it a sleek, aggressive look, with sharp angles and low-slung lines that screamed speed. This wasn't just a car, it was a statement. and thanks to Ford's involvement, it was priced well below similar models from Ferrari. The idea was simple: give people a high-performance mid-engine sports car that didn't break the bank. It was an Italian design with American engineering, a rare fusion that allowed it to shine in ways Ferrari models couldn't. So, while Ferrari kept producing their finely tuned but high-maintenance machines, the Pantera rolled in with brute strength, backed by Ford's reliability and Di Tomaso's racing pedigree. It was more accessible, easier to repair, and it held its own on the road. Alejandro's vision had finally come to life, a car that didn't just compete with Ferrari, but dared to challenge it directly. The Di Tomaso Pantera made a big splash when it first hit the American scene, turning heads at the 1970 New York Auto Show. Here was a car with Italian flair and American muscle, all wrapped up in an aggressive wedge-shaped body that made it look fast even while standing still. But what really made the Pantera stand out? It wasn't just about looks or speed, it was about bringing a high-performance mid-engine sports car to American buyers at a price that seemed too good to be true. Compared to Ferrari and Lamborghini, the Pantera was practically a steal. At around $10,000, the Pantera cost about half of what you'd pay for a comparable Lamborghini Miura. That price tag made it feel like the American supercar, one you could actually dream of owning without emptying your entire bank account. Soon, Ford began selling it through Lincoln Mercury dealerships, making the Pantera accessible to a much wider audience than typical Italian supercars. It was a winning formula at first, and the Pantera's popularity soared. By the end of 1971, Ford had imported over 1,000 Panteras into the US, with the first 75 cars still bearing some unique European touches like push-button door handles and hand-built Carrozziera Vignale bodies. But as with any exciting new car, reality set in. The Pantera looked great, but those early models had some rough edges. They had issues with rust proofing, which was typical of Italian cars from that era, and the fit and finish were inconsistent. These early Panteras, they had quality issues like body flaws covered up with large amounts of body solder. Ford, well, they weren't thrilled about selling a car with these quirks, especially when American customers expected a certain level of durability and polish. To tackle these problems, Ford increased its involvement and took an 84% controlling stake in Di Tomaso. This move, it was a game changer. With Ford's resources, they could focus on refining the Pantera to make it more reliable for the American market. One of the first changes Ford made was to switch from handcrafted body panels to precision-stamped ones. This improvement alone helped ensure the body fit together more smoothly, with fewer gaps and better alignment. Ford also implemented more quality control on the assembly line, and these changes gradually boosted the Pantera's overall reliability and appeal. By 1972, Ford and Di Tomaso introduced an update known as the Pantera L, with the L standing for Lusso, or luxury. The Pantera L was a big step forward, addressing many of the problems that had plagued the earlier models. It featured a larger black bumper at the front, not just for looks, but to meet US crash standards. They also adjusted the engine for American regulations by lowering the compression ratio on the Ford 351 Cleveland V8. Even with the lower compression, the car didn't lose its punch thanks to an aggressive Cobra Jet camshaft and a more efficient exhaust. At 264 horsepower, the Pantera L was still a beast on the road, and the new design changes made it a bit easier to handle at high speeds. Ford's tweaks and upgrades made the Pantera L a hit, earning it recognition as Road Test Magazine's Import Car of the Year in 1973. Even beating out some big names like Ferrari, Maserati, Lamborghini, and Porsche. By now, the Pantera had found its footing in the American market, thanks in large part to Ford's willingness to fix its initial issues and adapt it for American buyers. But as time went on, the Pantera's road got bumpier. The 1974 model year introduced the GTS version, which had caught the interest of American buyers. The US GTS featured special badging and matte black paint accents, but it wasn't as high-powered as its European counterpart. Legal battles between Di Tomaso and Ford resulted in the American GTS lacking some of the performance features found in Europe, with only cosmetic upgrades separating it from the regular Pantera L. Still, the Pantera managed to hold on to its fanbase. Unfortunately though, in 1975, Ford decided to pull the plug on US imports after selling around 5,500 Panteras through their dealer network. Rising emission standards and the oil crisis had taken a toll, and Ford wasn't keen on continuing with a low-volume, high-performance car that was struggling against new regulations. Even though Ford bowed out, the Tomaso kept the Pantera alive in Europe with future variants that would go on to become even more exotic and powerful. By 1990, the Pantera, well, it was ready for its final makeover. This time, it was none other than Marcello Gandini, the designer behind legends like the Lamborghini Countach and Diablo, which gave the Pantera a fresh look. Dubbed the Pantera 90 SI, this new version had a sharper, more modern style, while still honoring the car's roots. But the changes weren't just skin deep. The 90 SI got a complete overhaul in suspension and a partial chassis redesign, improving handling and stability. The old 351 engine was swapped out for a 5-litre Ford 302 engine, now equipped with electronic fuel injection and modifications to the intake manifold, camshaft and more, making it run smoother and more efficiently. To make sure it stopped as well as it accelerated, the Pantera 90 SI also got upgraded brakes with Brembo calipers, the same one used on the Ferrari F40. Only 41 of these final Panteras were ever made, making it one of the rarest models the Tomaso ever produced. Out of those, a couple were set aside for crash testing and one was kept in the De Tomaso Museum, leaving only 38 for buyers worldwide. Some of these even got a Targa top conversion, adding another layer of rarity. Today, the Pantera is highly sought after by collectors and its value has only gone up. Prices can range dramatically depending on the variant and condition, but any Pantera, especially the 90 SI, can fetch a hefty sum. People are drawn to its unique mix of American power and Italian design, and its status as a resto mod favorite has only added to its appeal. With its iconic look and heart-pounding V8, the Pantera has become a classic that enthusiasts dream of owning. And that's the story of the De Tomaso Pantera, the V8 monster that dared to rival Ferrari. Let me know in the comments, would you choose a Pantera over a Ferrari? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell us which car we should dive into next.